nervous as what in the world do you want me to say? And I'm in character and I'm thinking about something else. But you know what? I'm going to indulge you. He was afraid he was boring. But I get what I got from him was some good stuff about working with DB and how that frees you up. So he liked that. And that dovetails with stuff that Alexander was talking about. The whole thing of like working more freely. Let me know if it sounds perfect. And
yeah, we're all set.
We'll fire into questions. Please give an oral slate to our people.
Anything needed?
Yeah, just say your name, hi, and then
Brandon Cole, co-writer of the script with Alex Rockwell, I'm also one of the producers on the film. And I live in Brooklyn, my wife, and I'm out here trying to stay warm.
How did 13 Moons originate?
It was one of Alex's ideas, and I don't know specifically what he had in mind. I think it was a story about a group of people. That was the basis of it. And I don't know why he thought in those terms. Because there's an awful lot that's wrong with thinking that way in terms of film. But that's where we began, with an ensemble cast idea.
Why did Alexander pick you?
We've been working together off and on for about 14 years. So. In the past 2 or 3 years, we've written about 3 or 4 scripts together. And I don't think there was any specific reason why I would be involved with this as opposed to any other writer. Other than we have established this history of working together in a friendship. I don't think I brought to it anything that other writers couldn't have brought to it. It may sound like I'm criticizing Alex's judgment. It's not the case. But, we've been working together for a while and it seemed to be okay. So, plus when one's trying to start a project and there's no money, it's not that easy to get people to commit themselves. But both Alex and I, we're comfortable working that way.
What is ultimately it about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if Alex mentioned this, but we came up with this idea or the statement that this was to save the orphan kid. There's not an orphan in the film, but it's more or less, it's an analogy to say that there's some person, some unfortunate person who needs help. So what does one do when faced with that situation? And there's a lot of things people do. We do them all the time. We turn away or we try to sort of deal with it in some way. So that, to me, is the center of this piece. There's a child that has a problem, and the other characters deal with that problem, and in dealing with that problem, they deal with their own problems. And that's interesting to me, because it seems to say that in enlarging our experiences, we will have an experience. So we don't have to pursue narrow events in our lives. They can be much broader, which may be wrong, but it's an approach that I think is worthy of promoting.
With a movement from selfishness to selflessness for some of these characters?
Yeah, I think it is, but it's also a movement from ignorance to knowledge. It's a movement from maybe ambition to generosity. That's kind of the same thing, but more along lines that a position that any of us have attained is on its way towards something else. And this is one way that it's possible for that position to be improved, I think. So it does, of course, imply that there's a social connection that's critical to any person, any single person, which I believe. So I wouldn't say that it's It's people trying to be nicer. It's not about that. It's people trying to be. They're trying to be. They're trying to have a larger understanding of of whatever situation they're in. So that's an important area that I think both Alex and I are affected by. You know, people's lack of delicacy, people's, our own included, you know, but hopefully to a lesser extent. That it is possible for people to interact with with doing less harm to each other, you know, except when it's absolutely necessary. So.
And what's the working relationship like?
Well, it varies, you know, depending on the project. And we always think we're going to come up with this, you know, scheme on how we're going to approach it. So we get these guidelines set down, and we start to violate them almost immediately. I think I have to say, I think it's mostly from Alex's part that he tries to determine the stuff, because probably he's recognized that during the writing, I tend to, you know, just do what I want to do and check with him later. So if it's possible for that to stop, he might think I would be helpful, but I don't see how we do. Because how we can do that. Because you know, I spent a lot of time writing, and I have ways of doing it, and I will spend a lot of time on any project I have. So it's kind of the way we've worked it out, that we'll get together for short periods of time, and I'll take notes, and then maybe try to write a scene together, or go off and write a scene in isolation. But eventually, one of us has to take a more pronounced position in what's going on. And in the beginning, it generally tends to be me, and in the latter points, it tends to be Alex. And that's what happened in this project. So.
Because you put the directorial things in, the camera things in.
Yeah, but he also does other stuff. I mean, he does directorial stuff, but he also does. You'll be more aware that, you know, we got to deal with actors, and I'm not that much concerned with that. I'm more concerned with what the scene's about and how the themes are unfolding in the process. But that's an important realm, because people do have to act these roles, you know. So, for example, like the beginning of this film was supposed to start with Bananas and Binky going up the stairs on the way to find out that his girlfriend and his wife were there. And I thought that was a pretty good opening. You know, we don't know what they're doing, and all of a sudden we find these guys running towards this thing, and we sort of understand it as it unfolds. And it was Alex's idea to put this area where Binky and Bananas are playing the clowns, you know. My concern was that we're starting off a little expositionally. You know, starting off a little set, you know, rather than as a run, because I think this film has to move quickly. But it's important for those people playing those roles, Steve Buscemi and Peter Dinklage, that they have this experience, and also for the audience to understand that this is who these people are, so that question doesn't linger. So I think ultimately Alex's idea to do that, and his commitment to it that allowed it to happen, was a improvement, but it did make the initial experience of the film different. So. Well, I don't know. It's a crappy job, really. Sometimes this is a crappy job. Is that thing on, Peter?
Yeah, it's on. We're on. We're good.
So, could you tell us about, do you, when starting a project, do you write for budget? Do you try and write as cheaply as possible?
Yeah, generally so, yeah.
Well, what are some of the tricks that you've learned to?
Keep the locations to a minimum. Absolutely, that's You know, everybody knows that. Keep the characters to a minimum. Pretty much reduce just about every category one can.
Yeah.
It was designed to be done with certain actors in mind that we could get, and for a certain budget, which was from the very, very low to, you know, just a standard low budget, which is, I think according to most unions, is under about 2 million, 2.5 or something. Yeah, but Alex and I are both aware of the areas that have to be addressed and the problems that have to be solved. Creative problems are financial problems. We both take that position, and that people can disagree with that, but that's what I think, and I'm pretty sure Alex thinks that way too. Creative issues are financial issues. Where Alex and I run into where Alex and I disagree is in areas of what's justified. So when people ask me what I do when I'm working with Alex, I just say I'm pretty much just a reality tester. That's all I do. Is it believable? If I can make it believable, I'm okay. You can have a lion in a guy's house if you want. Just make it believable. Not specifically in this instance, if there's anything that I was dead set against that came across, there probably is. I just can't think of one now. Maybe. There's a character in here played by Peter Stormare, who's pretty much a guy who's, the character anyway, is a guy who's he's starting to, his life is starting to end because of the way he lives. Doesn't mean he's lived wrong or badly, but it's going to be over. Anyway, there's a character, this character's dressed in a Santa Claus costume. Now why the guy is in a Santa Claus costume, you know, it's possible to say it's around Christmas time and all this stuff, and he's, you know, one of these bums or whatever who've been, you know, he's taken on the kind of, do the Salvation Army stuff. Right? You can say all that stuff. But to me, it's not relevant to the story. But if I had to say why that was chosen, I would probably say Alex has something in his mind that this guy will work in a Santa Claus costume. So he'll put him in a Santa Claus costume and figure out the reasons for it. Which is not, to me, I mean, it's okay, but the reasons for me have got to be, they have to be honest. They can't just be a desire. You know? So that's what I do. And I question the honesty of choices.
What is honesty, though?
Well, I mean, it's a loaded word, you know. But if a person says, like, let me give you an instance. You can cut all this, right? You cut all these spaces out. So this is critical. It's really critical to human effort. I'm just trying to think of an instance, and I don't want to do harm to anyone. Fuck. All right, look. Let's say we have to make a casting choice, okay? And certain names are presented. Now, there are certain criteria that are necessary for this casting choice. One is the actor is suitable for the role. That should be, you know, involved in that pretty early on. Another one is that is the actor going to bring something to the project, possibly financially. That should also be, you know, taken seriously. And then there are personal relations. Now, that's what I mean by honesty. What is the what's compelling about the choice? Now, if someone says the first two and the third one is operative, then I would say that's a dishonest presentation. That doesn't mean that because someone is personally connected with someone, you don't use that person's not used. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that that's set. That's what it means. That's what honesty would mean in that instance, to me. And I find that very often that area is violated.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of an instance, and I don't want to do harm to anyone. Who you think has something against you?
You don't want to get this on film, do you?
Yeah, if it gets on film, then he'll see it, and then he'll know.
No, he gives, every time I say something to him, I could say the sky is blue and he'll say no, it's black.
But I think Jeff thinks that you're uppity.
Well, because he's got the hierarchy stuck in his head.
No, I think he's got a balance. He's got an appreciation for balances, and he thinks you're out of balance.
Well, that's life. That's life, isn't it? If someone is smart enough to hear that you have something to offer, then they'll hear that. But if they're just making assumptions that you're uppity, then where are you at? Right? Which is what
He's never said that to me. That's why.
Well, that's the way he behaves, and and whether he says it to you or not is
You
relevant.
better watch out, because this is all being recorded.
I don't give a shit.
No, you don't care?
I don't
You're
care.
an addict.
Your ears are
Well,
always
you know
open.
as well as I come in and I say something that makes sense to you, you'll at least hear it.
Pointless to
That's all I'm
keep
saying.
talking, because now you're just going to get reckless in what you say.
I'm not getting reckless, it's what I'm thinking.
Well, but you should. I would think you want to process what you think.
Well, I
so
don't
that it
have
can
to give this
become-
tape to anybody. This
Well,
tape
obviously,
can
so
stay
there's no point in recording it.
in my possession, and then when I put my film together, it can end up in my film. So that, sometimes I'm a little reckless. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. You have to follow your heart. If you feel like somebody is fucking with you, you have to.
Oh, all right. You
Respond.
told me that 150 times.
And then you don't believe me.
Well, you keep saying it, so you have to stand up for what you believe in. It's like, a cliche.
It's not a cliche.
It is.
If someone treats you a certain way, eventually you have to call them on it, even if you are an
You
assistant.
told me that
or,
50,000 times.
Yeah, but that's
150,000.
I know. Well, you do it all the time. You do it with Alex.
Anything I have
He's
to say
a
about
boss.
it.
Yeah, but
Even
you
if
do
it's
it with
just a
Alex,
passing
don't you? You
joke,
call
that's
them on
like-
things. The way a lot of people function.
Yeah, I look at this whole thing kind of like as an image. I look at it like there's some kind of fire, there's a hot wind, and it's always at our backs. And as long as we stay a step ahead of it, whatever it is, there's not a communication, for me, a satisfactory communication established at a level that is appropriate for what I consider to be a valuable experience, which is what I think this film and filmmaking in general is and should be. That's my dissatisfaction, so it's fine. But as I see it, it's like, as I said, there's something on our backs trying to get us. And we've got to just keep moving so we don't get it, so it doesn't get us. That's how I see this. And I'm not going to be at all, there won't be any part of me at the end of this that wishes it had gone on longer. Not any part of me. And these are the reasons why. It's unsatisfactory, the whole thing.
Do you think if this person, if the punctuality was not an issue, it would be less of a strain on you?
It's
Or
not-
less of an uncomfortable situation?
Yeah, because I'm forced to behave, in ways that I consider to be insupportable.
Like you're forced to be a taskmaster when that's not really the
It's
position
not
you
my
want to be
job.
in. You
It's
want to
not-
be like, hey,
I should
this,
be watching quality. I should be making sure the nuances. I should be making sure that the values that we tried to find and place in the script are there,
And you're focused on
taking
that.
the extra steps so that whatever can be done has been really exhaustively pursued, and that there is a support for whatever reaches that we try to make. And it's not there at all. We're just barely getting ahead of the hot wind. And to me, it shouldn't be.
Is it not possible for you to block out, or like, you have that stress, but you block it out once it's done with? Or is it?
No, but it's not it's really, see, I don't have a position. Here we are, there's a shoot going on, right?
Right?
So we're sitting out here in the deck. I'm cold. There's a guy who owns this house who's creating a problem.
Right.
And this is the atmosphere that's going on here. The shots are still taking too long. It's still taking too long to get off. We've got a big scene coming up with guys running through the house with a gun.
And that fucking horn's going off.
And I'm sitting here complaining. Well,
Yeah, well, a lot of stress gets built up in these situations, you know?
I don't buy it.
Huh?
I don't buy that.
What do you mean?
It's just a word that sounds appropriate, or it sounds.
But a lot of similarities between, I mean, I hate to say it, between me and Alex, and then Alex and my stepfather. My stepfather won an Academy Award in '67 for a documentary. And ever since then, I mean, he was always trying to do dramatic works, and he made one dramatic film for television and all that. It was very frustrating living with him, growing up with him, somebody trying to struggle to get things that he couldn't get. I mean, just in my personal thing, I mean, it's like having that break to get my film at Lincoln Center and then Sundance. To get my film at Lincoln Center and then Sundance. I mean, Lincoln Center, I didn't even know how to make a film, and I had 1,500 people watching my film. I mean, that was pretty amazing, you know. But then, since then, every film I've made that I feel like I know what I'm doing has not reached that height. So it's frustrating, you know, and it's a struggle to kind of keep yourself like, okay, I know there's something in me that has something to say, and they can put it in a form where people will respond to it, but a question of how to get that formula at the bigger level. You know, for having done a short, I mean, a short's 5 minutes, it was a 5-minute short, blah, 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 it doesn't mean much, except that it shows that you have something. But it's a question of how to take it to that next level. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you get those little successes, and they almost, I don't want to say they spoil you, but they...
I don't know.
I mean, with Alex, I mean, In the Soup was pretty successful for an independent film. A lot of people know about it. But what I'm saying is it's tough because you get that exposure, and then, I mean, especially for him, I mean, he's been out there, and it's like people then label you in a certain way depending on the films you made afterwards, you know what I mean? You get packaged into this.
Well, it's critical. I think what anybody does, it should be very important. That's what I'm saying. This is an important experience. That's why I'm so concerned about it, and that's why I'm unhappy with it.
But ultimately, it's how the film's going to be distributed, or
we'll see.
You know, edited first
well,
and then distributed.
You know, but what is that? A magic touch? It's going to be what we're making it now. So if we're not all trying to do it as best we can, then what? All of a sudden, somebody's going to come in there with an Avid, or you know.
Well, I mean, do you think? I mean, it's more importantly, it's like he can be late. He can be 2 hours late every fucking day if the footage that he's getting is good.
That's all bullshit. You know, you don't.
I'm not saying I'm not rationalizing it, but I'm saying.
No, but it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's like people thinking like.
You're saying if you're not disciplined in life.
That's right.
If you're not
Basically,
disciplined in life, everything else has no meaning.
If you don't work hard, if you don't work hard and you don't work in a consistent manner over a long period of time, you won't achieve anything of value,
hold on a second.
period.
Hold on a second. You're saying, because I get the sense when I watch him, he's working pretty fucking hard every day. Whether he's late or not, I'm not going to debate that. I agree with you. People should be on time. But to say that
he's working impulsively for the most part. You call it hard because he just runs around. And I'm not saying that he's not directing the film. I'm just saying Alex is directing the film.
But you're saying there's a laziness to his work.
To his preparation.
To his preparation.
Yeah.
Right, but you know, maybe that's just personality. I'd like to believe that if you work hard every day, you'll be successful.
Well, I don't know about successful, but I think you will, whatever the successful means, you will be successful. You will attain. You will have an attainment if you work hard consistently over a long period of time.
I don't know. You know, I think there's certain types of people. I think there's certain types of people that can be very disciplined, work every day, blah blah blah. And there's certain people that are impulsive, and still their quality of work is as high, if not higher, than the ones that work every day. And I'm not saying they both aren't valid. Well, there are artists, and they're people who are successful.
I don't talk about success. I'm talking about attaining something.
That's where we are. We're talking about being successful in your work and having something.
I don't like the word. I'm talking about attaining something.
Well, success is, to me, is.
No.
Well, then what's the difference?
As I say, it's an attainment. The attainment is a function of the effort put into it, and the attainment is also an appreciation by those who will be a party to the result of it.
So you're saying if you work hard every day,
it is an attainment.
That in itself is success.
Yes, it is.
So that you might as well work hard every day, because if the film sucks at the end of the day, at least you worked hard and did it right.
That's right. You did it. And if people like it, fun. And if they don't,
I've been living my life like that for the last 10 years.
But
you know, I'm wondering where the results are. I don't know
if the book you like so much. Take a look at the book. Look at Ulysses.
It's amazing. He worked 7 years on that book.
Yeah. You think he just got up and said, "Gee"?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also have I have a brother that is. I have a bunch of different brothers, and one is
I
great
don't want
business.
to keep talking about this. It's irritating me now.
Why?
Because I'm freezing. I gotta take a pee.
Here, why don't I give you my gloves?
No, I don't
Let's
wanna
run out
wear
the tape.
No, come on. The tape's for hours.
No, look. Just let me finish this point. Point being is, they're type. I mean, I have one brother that's business, blah blah blah, and he gets so pissed at this other brother that's spacey and kind of, you know, doesn't follow through on things. But that brother is very artistic and is good with computers, and I mean, so it's hard. It's hard to kind of say everybody has to be a certain.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying everybody's got to be anything. I'm saying, in my definition of what is important, these behaviors fall under it. People don't want to do it, fine. They're just going to make me unhappy. I'm
Right.
fine with that.
Right.
It's okay.
What the hell's going on in there? Is that a room over there?
That's the master bedroom. So we're going to have the
The
logo.
porno shit?
All right, got enough footage? Footage.
I only got 36 minutes.